Hello and welcome to another Steelers Depot live stream here on this Monday, December 11th. As always, I am Alex Kozora. Joining me is Dave Bryan, SteelersDepot.com, answering your Steelers questions until 8 p.m., the top of the hour. We'll get started with your questions in just one moment. Been a little bit since our last live stream. A lot happening, much of it not good, and so I'm sure there'll be a certain kind of tone to the chat tonight, which is justified considering how poorly Pittsburgh has played. But Dave, first, how you doing?
The further I get away from that Thursday game, I think a little bit better. Good thing we didn't have live stream last Monday or the day after the game. Give folks a little bit of a rest there or whatnot. But I imagine we're going to have quite an eventful session here tonight.
I figure as well. So thank you guys so much for being here. Dave and I will try to answer as many questions as possible. If you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered by Dave and myself, you can send us a super chat and you'll move to the front of the line. No obligation to do so, but we appreciate it all the same. If you guys could at the least like this video, also subscribe to the channel and check out the site you guys see on screen, Steelers Depot. Ben just dropped his latest podcast, Footballing, had a lot to say, including he is not unretiring to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, Dave, let's dive right on into it. From Tadasso Leahy, I'm probably mispronouncing that, so I apologize, but the question is, how worried are you guys at Steelers Depot that Mike Tomlin seems to be not worried about anything? It's getting ridiculous and bizarre. I'm debating if I should write about that for the morning or sometime later this week. Is Mike Tomlin worried about anything? Because judging by the press conference today, he didn't seem to have too many concerns about the questions that he was asked, despite this team losing to a pair of 2-10 clubs.
I think he knows how maybe fragile this team is right now, and how these final four games are, really I don't want to say a turning point. Turning point already happened a couple of games ago there, but how important? I don't think he wants to show fear or concern, or to kind of keep the motivation up in the troops. His answer to everything is just keep working, right? It would be nice to see a little hellfire, brimstone out of him, and a little bit more. Like today is, for instance, it'd been nice to see him kind of point, the finger a little bit harder at the offense and all like that. And without a doubt, the defense played a role in that loss to the Patriots on Thursday night, especially in the first half of that game. But, as we talked about, the entire fourth quarter there was an opportunity for the offense to do something, to come alive. I mean, hell, three points with the final two possessions, right? To go in this game. For as bad as the defense played in the first half, and obviously shutting them down in the second half, and a backup quarterback that you're not exactly the cheapest backup quarterback in the league, right? And you obviously he's played a lot of snaps. You would think that he'd be able to engineer at least a field goal drive in those situations to at least maybe get the game to overtime or something. So that's a long answer to it would be nice to see Mike Tomlin a little bit more concerned about things, but there are 4 games left. I hate to keep that's both a positive and a negative reminder to everybody, is that there are 4 games left, and if they can somehow manage to do what seems to be unthinkable right now, they'll be in the playoffs.
It's either going to be 4 games to turn this thing around, or 4 long and agonizing games the way the last 2 have been. Yeah, I mean, we made the comment, and I think it's one that's worth making, that Tomlin, opened the presser, 90 seconds on the defense struggling, finally turns to the offense, and his first and really only commentary was, well, Mitch played better throughout the game, which I'm not even sure is true. So really no critique of the offense. I don't love that consistent framing. I think it's because Tomlin has such high expectations for this defense, and the offense he really does not expect much out of at all. So I hope Tomlin is more worried than he showed. I assume and imagine that he is. I think Tomlin's mantra, and we talked about this on the podcast as well, is with how emotional and, as you said, fragile things seem to be right now, he wants to have that more steady the ship mentality of not being hyper emotional or giving some sort of great quote that's going to feed into the news story for another, 24, 48 hours. So right or wrong, I think that's the approach Tomlin's taking. Whenever everything's kind of chaotic around him, he gets really kind of cool, calm, collected. That's where he likes to work the best. And so I think that's why you're hearing the responses. But certainly, on the surface, the answers aren't going to sit well with Steeler fans.
When he goes home every night from the facility and is laying in bed there, I wonder what he thinks to himself when he, man, is this, does he honestly believe this offense all of a sudden is going to come alive and bust out for, heck, even now 23 points seems like
It's just the bar somehow.
Man, if we could hit 23 points, we might just win a game. What are you seeing on tape? It's the same movie,
Mm-hmm.
Every time these games get started, I just wish I could hit fast forward to the final 7 minutes of the game, because it feels like I know what I'm going to see in the first 3.5 quarters of this thing. And I wonder behind closed doors if he doesn't feel the same, because I don't know what there is or what he thinks that they can do. And look, we told people after Matt Canada was let go that there's probably not going to be a whole hell of a lot that changes in this offense, right?
Sure.
And we've heard, several other, former NFL players and all, go on record and say, there's only so much that you can change, this part of the season there. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
They are averaging fewer points per game under Faulkner and Sullivan than they did under Canada. It's a smaller sample size, but still one worth pointing out. All right, next question comes from our friend Mike Adesso. Says, Tomlin will be back next year. I believe that, like you guys, but changes need to be made. What coaches do you think should be brought back? Alfredo, Dunbar, Denzel, and maybe Danny Smith should be back. And Mike trying to save me there with the maybe on Danny Smith. I hadn't thought about it in too much detail yet. I'll let the season play out. I'm with you on, Alfredo Roberts, the tight ends coach, Dunbar, the D-line coach, Denzel Martin, the outside linebackers coach, Danny Smith. Eventually he's going to retire. I don't know when that point's going to be. That's probably going to be how he exits Pittsburgh. So I don't know. There'll be questions about Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach. There'll be questions about maybe Freeman Jackson, the wide receivers coach. But I don't have a list of exact changes or coaching, especially positionally, that I would tweak right now. Dave, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, just as long as there's a lot of changes on the offensive side. Obviously starting with the coordinator first and foremost, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Sullivan and Eddie Faulkner. And, it doesn't feel like, if Faulkner is not retained as the offensive coordinator, do you just send him back on his way back to the running back room?
I think so. If he's good with that, he's done a good job with the running backs.
I mean, the wide receivers, they probably could, let's face it, the wide receivers could probably use a change in that room.
Would not shock me if they went a different option.
And the offensive line, probably could stand for a change there. And, obviously offensive coordinator for sure. So once again, the final 4 games will tell us the story, but there's nothing that's happened, since the changeover from Matt Canada that gets you thinking that there's going to be significant improvements, especially with Mitch Trubisky under center. In this offense moving forward in these final 4 games.
I do wonder if Grady Brown, the DB's coach, is going to get looks for a DC job somewhere, just given the development of Joey Porter Jr. and the secondary improving. And sometimes it feels like Grady's the head coach because I see him on the sideline, like on the field as much as Mike Tomlin. He's always, right there engaged and coaching Joey Porter Jr. pretty hard. So I wonder if Brown's going to get some DC looks around the league this year. All right, let's see. Question from EST1909 ENT. Do you guys think that if Trubisky plays within the offense will be manageable? I think it'll be better. To what degree, I'm not sure. But I think, as you talked about, Dave, Trubisky's YOLO mentality has hurt this team more than it's helped.
But within the same breath, we keep calling for the football to be pushed down the field. So... he's got to be smarter with his decision making overall here. And look, the thing that got him a lot of wins this year was what? Not turning the football over. It almost feels like they get one turnover, might as well shut the TV off, right?
Literally. That's what I've been saying. And Trubisky could take his shots. You just have to be smart about when you take your shots. 4th and 2, the game on the line. It's not the time to take the shot.
Right. Especially with his track record and the probability factor, and he does, and he came out and tried to warn everybody again, right? I'm going to be aggressive, and look, and it's not like Kenny hasn't thrown interceptable balls this year. So I'm not going to just put this on Trubisky, but there should have been 3 or 4 interceptions in that game against the Patriots, and that really would have changed the complexion of it.
He's just a lot more willing to take on risk than Pickett and Rudolph. In some systems, in some worlds, that can work. In this system, it does not work. All right, got a couple of super chats that just came in. One from 2Colby0, $5 says, Munchak said that he will return to coaching if the right opportunity presents itself. Sure, especially if, regardless of whether or not Meyer is let go or not, you're going to hear Munchak probably get suggested, and he's been open to a return. Obviously left to go to Denver to be closer to family, and then didn't work out there. So if he wants to coach, a return to Pittsburgh would not be the craziest or the worst idea, certainly.
Yeah, regardless of what position he wanted,
Right.
That's somebody that's respected and obviously good track record in the time that he was with Pittsburgh the previous time there. So I can see in my head us writing a couple articles about that at some point after this season.
Sure. Knight Rider 16 with a $5 super chat. Thank you guys for the super chats. With Pickens' latest drama on IG, does this speak to Tomlin's lack of control of the locker room? I wouldn't call that drama if I'm guessing at what you're referring to, him liking some post about some skit about Kenny Pickett. I would not call that drama to the degree we're talking about post-Titans game, and I don't think they would suggest a lack of control of Mike Tomlin.
I just view it as you have a very immature player there right now. And and Mike Tomlin spoke to that to some degree during his presser today, that he understands the frustration and all, but if he's going to act out the way he's doing it in the game, it's not in a way that's helping that helps fix the problem. There.
Sure.
It does get tiresome I'm pretty sure from a fan standpoint, from what we do standpoint of every week, having these clips or still shots of him essentially sulking in one way or the other, be it on the field or on the bench or yelling at the coaches or what, that gets tiresome. I imagine he is. There's no reason why he wouldn't be frustrated, but how you go about presenting that while in the middle of a game specifically could be handled better on it. I just think he's just a very immature kid right now.
I don't disagree, but he's 22, second-year guy, facing a lot of adversity this year. I want him to improve and work through that, obviously, but I want to give him the chance to do that. I think some people are ready to run him out of town. I'm not there. I think he could certainly be an asset more than any sort of a liability or an issue. I think to the lack of control, which we still can't speak to clearly, obviously, in terms of what's happening in that locker room day to day, but here, Minkah Fitzpatrick speaking up to the degree that he speaks up, a pretty quiet and reserved guy, that says something when you're having kind of the leaders really, take some shots about how this locker room is working right now.
And, they brought in a veteran like Allen Robinson to kind of help in that room. And, to me, you might go to him and say, look, not that he hasn't tried to help already, right, but try to talk to him a little bit more,
Yeah. Sometimes people can only get help if they want to receive the help. So there's only so much I'm sure veterans can do. But I think the locker room concerns are just a broader thing than Pickens at home hitting the heart button on IG. All right, back to the questions. 74 people in the chat. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Dave and I are here until 8 p.m. Eastern time. You guys could like this video to bring in the most number of Steeler fans as possible. Would really appreciate that. Wes H says, is Mike Sullivan destined to be the 2024 OC? No, I don't think destined is the word, nor do I consider him to be the favorite. I think it'll be an external hire. I don't know who it's going to be. All I know is Mike Tomlin better get it right and better get it right quickly.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, there's no reason to think that Eddie Faulkner or Mike Sullivan would be the next man up.
And then Wes H also says, will Deontay Johnson and or George Pickens be on another team's roster in 2024? I don't answer to this, Dave. I want to get your take on that.
I think Deontay will be.
Okay.
Because of the contract and all. I could listen to an argument as to why maybe George Pickens might not be, but within that, look at your wide receiver room the way it sits right now. As far as under contract next year, it's Deontay Johnson, it's George Pickens, it's Calvin Austin III. Technically, Allen Robinson's under contract, but he's not going to be under contract at that price that he's scheduled to earn right now. So either you would go to him and say you got to cut it down to $2 or $3 million, or else we're going to have to turn you loose. And even then, you're probably not guaranteed a job at that point moving forward there. So essentially, and I mean, and I don't think Miles Boykin, I don't think he's under contract, and doesn't really matter anyway. He's a special teamer first and a wide receiver second, although he has seen quite a few, an uptick in snaps and, in some run type situations. But even then, we're talking about a guy that really doesn't matter outside of a special teams standpoint. So if you were to if you were to already in your head eliminate Allen Robinson from the picture, then you're left with a wide receiver room with only 3 players in it. And what is Calvin Austin III at this point? So really you could say you've got 2.5 wide receivers under contract. Are you really going to strip the room down that far? And if you did, how would you go about rebuilding it? I already foresee this team drafting 1 wide receiver even as it sits right now. If you go stripping the room down, you'd probably have to end up getting 2, and we know this team's probably not going to go out and spend a lot of money on a wide receiver in free agency. It would probably be, a lower end, another veteran, one that could potentially maybe play in the slot and try to help you upgrade there. That's a long way of saying probability wise, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens aren't going anywhere. The only reason I think that you could listen to an argument for related to George Pickens would be related to his attitude.
But Johnson has had some similar. I mean, Johnson was the one apparently yelling at coaches after the Browns game. To our knowledge, Pickens has never done that. He may have, but we don't know about that.
Sure, but I think I view it just. Deontay's done it on the field a little bit longer too, as far as having the output and all.
But he's also had more of the, I think, attitude issues on the field. He's the one who's not running after. I mean, I get you. My answer is I think both will be in Pittsburgh next year.
Right. The short answer is I think both will be in Pittsburgh next year. But I mean, if somebody want to argue either one of those two, the thing is with Johnson, I mean, you're going to have some dead money involved, and what could you get in return? What could you get in return for either one of them? Would obviously, and then how would you go about rebuilding that room, knowing that you're already probably going to be short out of that room of Allen Robinson anyway? Sure. So, are you really going to tear the room down that drastically? It'd be different if you had another guy or two in there, that you could hang your hat on.
No, I understand.
But you don't.
I think if you were to argue if I told you, Dave, one of these guys won't be a Steeler next year, I would guess Deontay wouldn't be a Steeler, but I think both do come back.
All right. There might have been a point where you would have asked yourself, you had your same conversation about Deontay and Chase Claypool, right?
Sure.
And they ended up jettisoning Chase. Now George Pickens is far more talented of a wide receiver than Chase Claypool was at any point there. So, once again, short answer to all of that is it would be a bit surprising if either one of them were gone.
Tim Chase, $5 super chat. Thank you guys for the super chat. Says Chuck Nolan, Bill Cowher had some horrible losses also back in the day. No quarterback, no wins in today's game. Kenny, not the guy. So he's saying that Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback problem, and that is a fair assessment, Tim. All right. But thank you for the super chat. And yeah, they got to get the quarterback situation right. That's still the biggest kind of looming personnel issue for this team right now. Let's see. Jared Mayock says, thanks for the Q&A, fellas. No problem, Jared. Who else is concerned that Jaylen Warren's usage seems to be declining? Why are the Steelers seemingly the only team not using tight ends to help establish rhythm on offense? I don't know about Warren's declining usage. I hadn't seen the stats on that. Maybe there was some ebb and flow in that Pats game, but one game to me is not the most concerning thing. I think Pittsburgh has been relatively tight end heavy, especially in recent weeks with Pat Freiermuth back. So I don't know if I would necessarily agree with the assessment there, Jared.
As far as, you've seen him try to get the ball to Connor, a little bit these last couple weeks. And obviously Pat Freiermuth had the game that he had a couple of games ago and all. You would like to see it in more manageable type situations, utilize in more down in short third and 3 situations and all like that, or maybe even a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 2 like the other night. You can't tell me there's not a way you can't scheme something up, maybe for a tight end in those situations there. So here's the thing with Pat. I wrote about this the other day. Pat Freiermuth, barring something astronomical happening, he's not going to hit his proven performance escalator raise. And I'm sure that, thinking back, I think he kind of rushed. I think they gave him an opportunity after that bye. After he injured that hamstring. After he injured that hamstring, the next week was the bye week, I think. They gave him that bye week to see if he could get himself right, so he could get back on the field and get those snaps in to qualify for the proven performance escalator. And we all know how that went. He practiced full that week coming out of the bye on that first day, and it was limited, and then off to IR he went there. But long story short, Freiermuth probably wants to see the ball in these final 4 games as well, because this is an offseason where, going into this season, you thought that if Freiermuth could put up another 60 reception, 700, 800 yard season, he would definitely get a top 10 tight end contract extension. Now, you can make arguments that they might not consider that with him. So if anybody's probably wanting the ball in that offense in these final 4 games, it's probably Pat Freiermuth.
Sure, he wants to try to have a chance to make some money this offseason. It's been a tough year for him, so I'm with you there. I think they run the ball well. Besides this Patriots game over the last month or so, they'd run well, so that's kind of low on my list of concerns. They have to get better against some better run defenses like the Pats were and are, but I think overall the running game has been the best thing about this offense for the last 5 games.
How many in the chat right now would pick up the 5th-year option on Najee Harris during the offseason?
It's going to be one of the bigger personnel in terms of guys here offseason questions. The will they, won't they? You're still in the camp of they won't, I'm guessing, Dave?
I'm in the camp of I wouldn't.
But will they?
I don't know. He doesn't seem all that happy right now either.
He's not having a good time.
So I don't know. With 4 games left and looking at things right now, my prediction at this point is that they wouldn't, because that guarantees that next year the year after contract as well too. And he's bless his heart, he stayed healthy. And normally you see these running backs miss games at this point in their careers, especially even though it's not like he's getting 300 touches a year right now. But he has done something, and he as far as staying healthy, is his explosive runs are up this year. But he is a little bit older, and you kind of, if you look at a probability chart, in a gamble, is that something that you really want to gamble on? So I know personally he would have to really do a lot in these final 4 games for me to change my mind as to whether or not I would do it. As far as if I think they will, right now I don't think they will. I don't think they have reason to.
That's where I've been leaning to, but it's going to be the toughest call we've ever had to make on a will they, won't they of a 1st-round pick since that 5th-year option became a thing. It's not obvious in terms of a TJ Watt. It's not obvious in terms of a Artie Burns, where you sit there and say, okay, yes, no, without much discussion. So That the responses seem to be mostly no, that they shouldn't. A couple of yeses in there, but the consensus seems to be to the no category.
And if you get past that, what's the deadline?
Sometime
May,
in early mid-May.
May. Let's say you decline it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
What's his response going to be to that?
In some ways, he might be happy because it's 1 year closer to a free agent contract, and that's what these running backs want. So, and if he's unhappy in Pittsburgh, actually, he may not mind that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But it'll be an interesting talking point, no question. All right, 114 here in the chat. Thank you guys so much. Please like this video. Please check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate all the support. Robert Frederick asks, would you trade a first-round pick for Justin Fields? I would not.
No.
As dynamic as he is as a runner, the passing has still been not there, and older in terms of having to pay him. Go draft. You're gonna go quarterback. Go draft somebody. Go start from scratch.
And look, I understand a lot of the talk this offseason is going to be about the quarterback position, and with good reason, and people thinking that either they should trade up and get one in the draft or go out and get a veteran, maybe a Kirk Cousins or something like that. I can't help but in my mind just keep going back to the couple of times that Mike Tomlin has talked about Kenny Pickett and football justice and how hard he works and all like that. I will be surprised if this team goes in any other direction than Kenny Pickett in 2024.
I think you're right. I think the question becomes, is that the right decision by the team? And that's a whole separate discussion to be had.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Mason says, I know winning press conferences doesn't really matter, but is this season the worst Tomlin has been at the podium? Coach speak and stubbornness is at an all-time high. It's hard to compare and think back. I'm sure in 2012, 2013, those 8-8 seasons, it was a similar conversation. I'm sure that maybe there was pushback in those post-Unleash Hell comments from, was that 09, whatever year that was. So I don't know, but there's certainly been some not Tomlin-like moments during his pressers.
I don't think the night before, I don't think he thinks, oh man, I can't wait to get up in the morning and have my press conference, for starters. Number two, he has cut some people off and given some quick, shorter answers. It feels like more so than any other year. Now he's always is going to use his press conferences to send whatever message he thinks he needs to send to the locker room or players in the locker room. But I mean, and look, we don't expect him to come out and tell us the game plans or anything like that. But they're not as entertaining as they used to be or have been in the past. Let's just leave it at that. And I don't think he sets his alarm clock jumping out of bed, looking forward to doing them.
I think you're right. Ronald Hall, do you see us bringing Mitch or Mason back again next season, and any chance we draft one if we finish with a top 15 pick? I think, as Dave and I discussed, they're most likely to have Pickett be their guy, not draft a quarterback. You have the discussion about Mitch before the Patriots game. These next couple of games would be key to Mitch's future, and one game into that, it's not looking great for Trubisky.
Yeah, and I wrote that article right after Pickett went down, saying, could these final games determine his future? Now, he obviously is under contract next season. It's not a killer salary from a salary standpoint there, but I mean, the whole reason, and I envisioned them kind of having strong-armed him into this latest extension because there was no new money there. It was an attempt to lower his cap hit and kind of dangle that what was it, 8 million, 7 million that he was due this year over his head. Said, look, you could either sign this extension or go see if you can find somebody else to give you the 8 million kind of thing. Now they said all the right things on the backside. Oh, we love Mitch, great in the locker room, good for Kenny, blah blah blah, and all like that. But I think that was a financial decision more than anything. And also, you want a veteran guy there another year to help Kenny through this. But it boils down to, if he's going to be your backup in 2024, is it a guy that you can count on coming off the bench for 2, 3, 4 games and win you some of those games? And I don't think you have that confidence right now that he can be that. So I don't care if it's $2 million or $8 million or $12 million that you're paying a guy. If you don't have the confidence in him to be the guy to come off the bench 3 or 4 times a game and win you the game, then does it matter how much you're paying him?
But the question is, do they have the confidence or not? I feel like they have more confidence in Mitch than you and I do.
I believe that as well too.
And how often do they go cut a guy a year after giving him an extension?
True.
So, I mean, I get it. And I mean, if they do, I mean, I've talked about Trubisky's issues. I don't think he meshes well with how Pittsburgh operates offensively, how they win right now. But I have a feeling he's going to be back. I've been wrong about Trubisky stuff before, so take this with a big old grain of salt. But that's just my feeling.
Look, I thought there was a good chance they parted ways with him this past offseason.
Yeah, but you also talked about the extension, which I was much more, I didn't think was going to happen. And once they announced basically he was going to stay, you were like, okay, they're going to extend this guy. And I thought there was no chance.
Right. But I mean, I was looking at it, are they going, especially at what he was scheduled to make, that's a lot. What kind of my, I guess, prognostication was, man, there's no way they can let this guy, have that with the salary cap situation and all like that. There was no way they could do it. And also, I mean, you see what you got,
Sure.
on the backside of it there. Do they want to keep that room together one more year? What to me, can you fill that spot with a better player and at what cost? But I do believe they like him. If push comes to shove right now, if you wanted me to guess it, if he will be here in 2024, my answer would be yes.
Mm-hmm. I guess, and I don't want to dwell on this too much. I want to get to the chat questions, but okay, we talked about all these guys coming back. Something has to change, right? I mean, for this offense to get better, there has to be more than just tweaks and around the edges type decisions to make this offense actually improve.
And we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, right? About, man, the last couple of years, it looks like you got too many holes and not enough draft picks. And we know how they either better change their free agency approach, or get to trading some of these guys out of the room and replace them with draft picks, which would be kind of you have an instance like you have with the Chase Claypool thing, but could they do more of that, and who would be those guys? Look, we even talked about defensive line right now, and I pulled this back up. I can't help but continue to think about this. You look at your defensive line room that's under contract for 2024. It's Cam Hayward. Okay, that's fine. It's Keanu Benton, fantastic rookie season. Look forward to that. Larry Ogunjobi, for what he's set to earn versus what you've seen out of him this year, there is a mismatch there, like it or not. Loudermilk's under contract, and DeMarvin Leal's under contract, and DeMarvin Leal has slowly seen his snaps dwindle away, and he was even inactive for this last game here. Look, nobody probably would have been shocked had Loudermilk not made this year's roster.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
what are you going to do? You got a decision coming up on Larry Ogunjobi in March because of a roster bonus there. So you should have that answer pretty quick. But then what do you look like? And Cam's another year older. What is your defensive line room look past that? And we saw what happened with the inside linebacker room this year. And is Quan Alexander going to be back? And how long is it going to take Cole Holcomb to get healthy? And if is that enough? You got this once again, and this is the case every year. Your rosters, at least a third of your roster should look different, and it might be something similar to kind of the changeover we saw this year, which was a little bit heavier than a third, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty dramatic in that first full offseason under Omar Khan, which is typical, I think, for new GMs, even internal ones like that. But you just wonder, okay, what's the big change going to be? Or does this team just believe they just have to tweak it more and dial it in, and that's going to take them to the promised land? I don't know, and that's what we're going to find out. All right, back to the chat here. David Kapoor, who's been in these streams a lot. Thank you, David, for being here. Are we overreacting with Fire Tomlin? If Kenny plays, we win both those games. We'll never know. I don't think Pickett was playing particularly well in the first half against Arizona before getting hurt. The losses are the losses. If this team does not get into the playoffs and win a playoff game, which is not tracking that way right now. This year's a big disappointment considering the expectations that were reasonable put on this team in the summer.
Had they won both those games against Arizona and New England, 13-11, would we be having the conversations that are out there right now?
No, not a chance. No.
Because they were W's and not L's, right?
And Pittsburgh always wins 13-11. That's just par for the course.
All right. So, but they did not win those games, and that's why, we're having these conversations right now.
Yeah, this team was 7-4 a week ago, and now they're 7-6, or more than a week ago they were 7-4. You get my point. And they were in position, and they're fading. Now they can still turn things around. They beat the Colts. The mood is going to tick up again. They're going to be in strong position. So we'll see. But right now, these are two embarrassing losses.
Look, this team isn't as good as what I thought it would be this year, and I'm sure most of you in the chat and Alex feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I had them 10-7 and then 1 and done. That could still happen, I suppose. But
not the way you colored in the dots there, right?
The details are a little bit different than what I expected this offense, of course, to be much better. All right, I got Joey Jr. saying happy holidays, Alex and Dave. Thank you, Joey Jr. And same to the entire chat. Wyatt Hubbard, Jackson Powers Johnson, next Steelers center. That's a guy I'm sure we'll look at for draft time.
I wonder how tall he is. He's listed at on Draft Scout at 6'02", and I haven't seen anything on his arm length. And I've watched just 18 plays on him. I haven't gotten deep into him at all. I wonder what his height and his arm length is.
What school again?
Oregon.
Okay. There'll be a couple guys. You got the...
I think that's the guy that they're talking about.
Yeah, they got the West Virginia kid. I had done very little research as some of my answers showing. So he'll be on our list, though, on ours, on Jonathan Hydrater's, on the Depot crew. Wyatt Center, certainly something to examine. Leo Levine, would you prefer the Steelers tank or just happen to lose the rest of their games so that they break this cycle of mediocrity? If so, what quarterback would you hope to get earlier in the draft? I couldn't give you a quarterback name right now. The blue chip guys are going to be, well off the board by then. I never root for this team to lose. I don't like it when they lose. There's still an opportunity, as I just said, to get in the playoffs and turn this thing around, as, pessimistic and reasonably so things feel and look right now. So I'm not on the Adam Sheen train of go tank and lose these next 4 games.
Yeah, I'm just where I'm at. I never obviously root for them to lose. Now, look, I don't break stuff in the house when they lose. I just what gets me the most depressed now, especially this season, is going, oh, I've seen this all 22 tape before. Now I got to go. I've got to go through it, 5 or 6 times, and and that's the depressing thing about, and at least with some wins, sometimes you have something, maybe a couple extra plays to kind of look forward to and all like that. But not only are you coming out of a loss and just the fan part of you being, crap, they lost, knowing that you got to do the work after it, to see the stuff. So no, I don't root for them to lose. It is getting tiresome of talking about this team not winning a playoff game since the 2016 season. End of story. And it's tiresome every offseason talking about having posting all those memes and graphics of consecutive non-losing seasons for Mike Tomlin and all like that. That's where it's tiresome for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, never rooting for this team to lose, but if they were to go 8-9, there's some silver lining if I can stop hearing about that talking point about him never having a losing season. Although this is his first losing season, and we'll talk about that endlessly, I'm sure. But no, I want them to win. I want them to do well. It's more fun. Contrary to what some people think, it's from a job perspective, it's a lot more fun to write about them winning and playing well than losing. And I don't like staying up until 4:00 in the morning after that Pats game writing about a loss. That's just not. It's much more fun to do these things in victory than talk about defeats.
I do walk down though and remind myself and my wife that how thankful I am that I get to watch football for do what I do.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of it. So even bad football.
Yeah, it's just a game, and we're lucky to be in this position. Got a $2 super chat from Wes, just following up his question earlier. It says great in-depth answers. Thank you, Dave and Alex. You're welcome, Wes, and thank you so much for being here as with the other 112 people in the chat right now. Let me scroll back up. About 20 minutes left. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible. Let's see. Pittsburgh Toddy. 86, the Pitchfork and Torch store just reopened. Should I visit? I assume they just ran back out of supplies, but you can check it out there, Pittsburgh Toddy. The super chat just come in. Another one from Tim Chase, $5. Less yards than everybody they played. Kenny's numbers historically bad. Mitch terrible. Joe Flacco playing better off couch. Not seeing a question there, just kind of more of an observation. Yeah, I mean, obviously they're on Trubisky, the backup quarterback, have had some injuries, but as you're noting, Tim, Joe Flacco leading them to victory. Jake Browning looking good in Cincinnati right now. Teams are winning with backup quarterbacks.
Yeah. Hope many of you don't have or don't have YouTube TV to watch both. I sat and watched both those games yesterday of Cincinnati and Cleveland, and it frustrates you, and you even go back to that Jacksonville game against who was it, Cincinnati the week before with Browning and all, and why does it seem like everybody with the backup quarterback, can get things done, and at least have 300, 400 yards of offense and put the ball in the end zone and all like that. So it's hard not to get frustrated from that standpoint. And see Flacco, see what Flacco did, he has 5 touchdowns now in 2 games, and he looked pretty damn comfortable in that offense yesterday.
He did, and they won, and they put up 30 points, which in Pittsburgh has not happened, especially in victory. But Thief says, why is Alfredo Roberts considered really good? I keep hearing it, so I assume it is true, but I don't know that the tight ends are really great right now. I just look at more the body of work. I think Frymouth has developed well under him. He's never going to be a great blocker, but I think he's obviously become a top 8 tight end-ish in football. Zach Gentry's best year as a blocker, I think, came under Alfredo in that first season that Roberts got hired to replace James Daniel. I think Darnell Washington has taken some strides recently, more iffy against the Pats, but I thought against the Cardinals and the Bengals, he was much better. I think Connor Hayward, for the difficulty of him kind of being an untraditional size tight end, has found a niche in this offense. So I've just seen kind of growth and development from young guys, and that's kind of what I would point to with Alfredo Roberts.
I tell you, Connor, for what he is, they have been able to maximize his ability. Now, am I talking about a Pro Bowl guy here or anything like that? No, he's got great hands. He's a huge effort guy. Sometimes they put him in positions that he has no business doing, blocking some of those base ends or something like that. But he's learned to cut okay, coming across some split zones, and once again, he's got good hands and all like that. But they could stand to utilize their tight ends more in this offense. The one thing about Darnell Washington's tape coming out of Georgia, is he ever going to? He's always going to be a number 2. I view he's never going to be a number 1 tight end. That's probably that's probably part of the reason you saw him slip down in the draft like he did, because he's just never going to be that down the field, to me, 50, 60 catch guy, Sure. And we have seen a little bit of progress at points in his blocking, although probably less so in this last game against New England. Took a step backward, if you ask me, on the All-22.
Yeah, he struggled in those toss plays against Anthony Jennings and some old SEC battles. They didn't go against each other in college, I don't think, but Bama versus Georgia, and Bama won that both in the college football season and in that game. Simon says, hey, Alex, would people be bad fans if I did not really mind if we lost the last 4 for the higher draft pick? That goes into the similar question from earlier. I'm never going to tell fans, what to do or how to think or how to react. I don't root for it. I understand the point and the other question's point about they lose. Maybe that'll kind of wake them up to make some more significant changes, but I just can't personally bring myself to want to see this team struggle and lose games.
Yeah, I understand why people are with the whole theory of the draft pick and all like that, and some people want Tomlin to finally wear that less than 500 banner around him for an off season. I get all that, but and I'm not going to tell people that they're bad fans or whatnot, but whatever gets you through the night.
Knight Rider 16, he, referring to Tomlin, makes me mad when he says what happened early doesn't determine the outcome of the game, so giving up 21 New England early didn't cause us to lose. That was in reference to Tomlin's comments that he's not concerned about the first 30 minutes of football. It's a 60-minute game, and yeah, again, answers that are not going to sit with fans, and understandably so, because it's not a good answer.
Yeah, why don't you start doing something in the last 30 minutes of the game then, and maybe we wouldn't talk about the first 30 minutes so much.
Right, or maybe if the first 30 minutes were better, the next 30 minutes wouldn't be so crucial to winning the game. So don't love that. Let's see, Mike Odessa, would you bring back Terrell Austin? I would. I think most people probably would disagree, but I think he's I like him as a coach. I like the turnover mentality he's brought. I think he's fine to return as DC.
Yeah, obviously with that bad taste in your mouth with those 21 points, I think as a whole, especially after halftime, most of the time they seem to be making some decent adjustments, but you would like to see him adjust earlier against a certain tight end against Arizona, there are obviously some things that he could do better in game adjustments with things. But I mean, at its core, the defense is a reason that this team's been in most of these games all season.
Gary says, Dave, when can we expect your first mock draft? Soon?
Yeah, I wouldn't go on a hunger strike or anything like that. Look, we get, as we've said a lot of times over the years, Alex and I personally get started way later in the draft process than most people because obviously we day-to-day cover the Steelers and all like that. And I think, last year both of us actually got started maybe a tiny bit earlier than normally. And look, as it turns out, my first mocks that I do at this point now in my career seem to be my best ones. So I try to prolong but look, long story short, it's going to be after. If I do any earlier this year, it's going to be after obviously the combine and after both of the college all-star games.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit on that, but Jonathan Heitrader did one over the weekend. You guys can check out. Just type in mock draft or 7 round, something like that, and check that out from Jonathan. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh, maybe not such an easy question or answer. Should Tomlin be replaced, or should some of his assistant coaches need to be replaced? Kind of similar to earlier. Again, I'm pretty confident Tomlin will return in 24. I think the coaching staff will have some sort of changes. To what degree, I can't tell you. There have to be some changes to get made here coming off the season, at least the way that it's tracking. But I will kind of hold my tongue in terms of whether or not I think Tomlin should come back or not until after the season ends. I don't usually talk about firings until the season is over and you see the whole body of work without more games to be played. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but you would expect some sort of turnover, both personnel and coaching staff in the offseason.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a prediction that people will see changes on this coaching staff during the offseason.
Okay, gotcha. Be a stretch beyond just the OC change, I assume.
Yeah, there's going to be some position. I think you're going to see a lot of turnover on the offensive side, and once again, we'll see how these final 4 games play out and all like that. But I'll be surprised if they trade or fire Mike Tomlin.
Logan says, absolute long shot, but if Pickett doesn't return, do you anticipate the team bringing in an outside upper-profile quarterback, Cousins, Fields, and Pickett's going to return? I don't know. You could talk about it. They're going to bring somebody else in, but I think either way, Pickett's going to be clearly the starter in 2024.
Yeah, that goes back to Mike Tomlin saying several times the football justice, and it would be quite an about-face from just his words alone if this team went in a different direction at quarterback in 2024.
Sure. I'm not saying it's the right decision. I've certainly called into question Pickett's future and what he could be for this team, but I'm just saying that's where I think things will go. Steelers freak, will Art pay for a quality OC, and will Tomlin let the cook on his own? I'm not sure what that last part means. I guess Tomlin, I don't know if that's referring to, will Tomlin be left alone to hire the OC, or will Tomlin leave the OC alone? We'll see. I mean, they got to get the hire right. And I said on the podcast, not only get it right, but get it right quickly. There can't be a whole year of let's kind of let these guys, mesh and work it out. They don't have a year to figure those things out.
Yeah, you better be choosy here.
It's got to be the best hire Mike Tomlin has ever made in his coaching career. Maybe the most important hire Pittsburgh has made since hiring Mike Tomlin in 2007. All right, about 10 minutes left. Let's go through as many questions as we can. Some people asking about potential OC candidates. We've talked about some of those before. I'll go through another list. I had an article when Canada was fired about potential names, but no one really knew to offer right now. All right, let's see what else we have here. I can find a new person. With the quarterback play that we've had, we can't really judge Calvin Austin, can we? Austin could be a star on a team that actually had a quarterback that could find an open receiver. I mean, he's a one-year guy, and the passing game has struggled, immensely, so some of that's fair. I just don't know what Austin's bringing outside of the straight line speed. I don't know if Pittsburgh knows how to really utilize him. I don't know what else he offers from a skill set perspective.
Well, you keep going back to what he was able to get accomplished at the college level with the one every 4 times that he touched the football was an explosive play. Now, obviously, playing at Memphis is a lot different than playing in the NFL. They could be a lot more creative with him. And is he ever going to be Tyreek Hill or any of these or even a Tank Dell at this point? Probably not. No. But could you find more creative ways to get the football in his hand? More than 2.5 yards past the line of scrimmage, those kind of things, and let his ability to be able to run out, because that's what he does best, right? Run out in space with the football to use that speed and the agility, So is he ever going to be a 50 or 60 catch guy in Pittsburgh? Probably not. But could they do a better job with his role on offense? The answer is yes.
Sure, I don't deny that, but and again, he's like 1 year in because he missed his entire rookie season, but he's got great speed. He's a track speed kind of dude, 4.3 player, but I don't think he has particularly great wiggle. I don't think he's particularly elusive for his frame and body type. Obviously, he can make guys miss, but not to the, a Rondell Moore's got a similar skill set. He's not elusive in that sense to what you would expect. I think he goes down super easily on contact. I think his hands are average to below. His catch radius is incredibly small. The ball's got to get put right on him. And as a returner, he's not been anything to write home about. He's actually been, I think, pretty poor there. So I just don't see, besides the speed, what he's really offering you. But again, we're still evaluating, and I know he's young guy in, first year in, so there is some grace to be given, and he should be back in 2024. Steeler for Life has a solution to the Steelers' problems. It's a pretty heavy one. We'll just read it here and acknowledge it. Trey Tomlin, Jaden Daniels quarterback, Ben Johnson coach, Byron Leftwich OC. That is how he would fix things for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Good.
So that's probably not going to happen, but more than entitled to your opinion there. Matt Smith, how much of an indictment on this coaching staff is the fact that Spillane, Witherspoon, and Dotson have all been above-the-line players this season with their new teams. I don't know. I don't think anyone's particularly upset those guys left. They overhauled the inside backer room. It just has been ravaged by injuries. Witherspoon has always been a hot and cold player. He's having a good year in LA, maybe terrible next year. And Dotson, we just kind of knew it was not going to fit in Pittsburgh. So I know many people are upset about that. It does not upset me as much as it does others.
No, but it is funny to see Dotson have the year that he's having, especially at the position that he's having. And that was the position that he predominantly played, really exclusively played at Louisiana Lafayette. And, you almost wonder if if he's not having to think. I keep asking myself when I peer at some of his tape at this point with the Rams is he not having to think as much,
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. I don't know exactly the reason, but maybe being back on that right side and just the scheme is working better for Kevin Dotson. Russ Openstein, our friend Russ, is here, says, "What's up, Alex and Dave? Hope you guys are doing well. Do you think we start Mason? Dave, do you think Mason will start at any point this season? I'll put it that way."
No, not to hear Mike Tomlin talk today.
Yeah.
No. He chalks it up to Mason don't have the on-field experience and hasn't for a couple years, and to me it would probably take a Mitch Trubisky injury or Mitch throwing 4 or 5 interceptions.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think it would take a lot. I mean, Tomlin is an all-in guy until he's not, and so if they make a change, it could just happen after 1 week. I don't think it's going to happen mid-game unless it's just super, super dire. But it is kind of funny to hear Tomlin say, "Well, he's not seen the field." Well, whose fault is that? It's kind of the we all got to figure out who did this meme, and it's you're not playing the guy, so of course he can't get experience.
Look, if they don't beat the Colts on Saturday, none of it probably going to matter.
That's also a fair point. All right, let's look for any more questions. Gary says, would you trade Pickens for Fields? We're kind of just playing Madden at this point, but no, I would not. Someone says, Mr. Woodside, no Cousins. He can't play outside in this division in the winter, so we're going to have some Cousins takes, I'm sure, this offseason, both for and against. Did you guys see the receivers on Mitch's first pick that was called back? Looked terrible on the broadcast. Those were a couple of over crossing routes. I don't know exactly what Troy Papp is getting at there, but there was a hold on the play, so that did influence the interception by J.C. Jackson. Let's see what else we have here. Anything to get to question-wise? John Pennington with a good one. Hello, Dave and Alex. Are you guys concerned that Kenny and Pat can't stay healthy and Najee vision when it comes to hitting the correct running lanes? I'm not concerned about Harris's vision. I think the health, though, of Pickett and Freiermuth are certainly talking points that are valid.
Yeah, and I wrote what I wrote about Pat the other day. I don't know if you can. Hamstring injuries happen, right? Now, if we were talking more of a couple of more concussions this year, that certainly would escalate that conversation when it comes to Freiermuth. Is he just unlucky with this hamstring? I mean, because these things happen with soft tissue type things and all like that. But then obviously the knee injury at the end of last year was just an unfortunate play.
Right.
There, he's thankful he didn't tear it up. On that play there. Pickett. Look, you don't like him missing all these games, and obviously being a second ankle injury going back to his college days there. So I mean, you draft these guys to play, right? Period.
Right. I'm less concerned about Pat than I am Pickett just because of the position. You lose your tight end versus losing your tight end changes the dynamic of the conversation, your game plan. I had the stat. Since Pickett took over in Week 5 as a starter last year, Mitch Trubisky has replaced him or started in place of him in 9 of either 25 or 26 games. That's a third of the time that Trubisky's either coming in off the bench or replacing Pickett. Pickett's a tough guy. He's tough. He comes in whenever he plays when he absolutely can. But he has missed a lot of time. 9 out of 25 or 26 games, including this upcoming Colts game, is quite often.
Right. And once again, I'd be more concerned about Pat if we're talking about more concussions this year.
Sure. But where's your concern with Pickett? 'Cause to me, that's a much larger discussion.
It's worth watching. It's worth the conversation.
Yeah. So I think it's something that does not get talked about a ton with Pickett, but actually might be one of the bigger concerns when your quarterback is missing in action a third of the time. All right, what else do we have here? Anything else we can get to? Joey Jr., Dave, and Alex with a bunch of question marks. When is the last time the Steelers quarterback had 3+ touchdowns? Ben, at some point. Did Ben have one in 21? Probably. Maybe the Vikings game, but it's not been anybody since him.
Nope.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Just a couple minutes left, and thank you guys for being here. Really good turnout tonight, and appreciate you guys hanging out. Quickly, Dave, and just kind of a 30-second view, Mike Ades was kind of referring to it. What are your thoughts on the Ohtani contract, both the $700 million and apparently the insane deferrals he has on that deal?
Yeah, when you get into baseball and contracts and them not having a salary cap and all like that, you kind of lose me there with. Look, I grew up a big baseball fan, huge baseball fan, and the economics now of the game and them not having a salary cap, and it just seemingly like teams can go out there and like the Yankees did for years, and now the Dodgers, and I wish they'd get it. I don't think it's going to happen anytime. I might not live to see it, but I don't see how the small market teams can compete if they're not willing to throw astronomical amounts of money around, period. It just seems like the rich always get richer. And yeah, I know there's been instances over the years with the smaller salary teams, winning championships, but it just seems like the odds are really, really stacked against you.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a crazy deal, crazy deferral. I was wondering why Ohtani would want to defer that money, but then somebody said whenever his contract's up, he'll be out of California and save a bunch of money on taxes, which actually I guess does make a lot of sense.
Minnesota Vikings game. Ben Roethlisberger 3 touchdowns in that game.
All right, there you go. And that was in that comeback or attempted comeback, catch up late. Should have hopefully, I shouldn't say hopefully. Wish it was 4 because it was that pass to Pat at the end of the game that tough play for him to make.
End zone.
Yeah, but 3 is the last time that. I wonder if that's the longest drought in the NFL. I wonder if the Giants have something to say about that, but it's one of the many offensive droughts that Pittsburgh is experiencing right now. I had a $2 super chat from Cameron Bobath that I missed, and so I apologize missing that, but it says post of offensive coordinators you would be excited to hire, not expected. Again, I don't have a list of names that I would even think are realistic options or guys that I'm super excited about, so I got to do some more research on that, Cameron.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that yet.
I think maybe the last one we'll go to, we're missing some, we apologize, kind of out of time here. Thomas Sargent, do you predict Tomlin's contract will get extended this offseason? A really good question.
Yeah, that's a good question there because do you lame duck him and then, put the onus on maybe the price tag? It would make sense if Art Rooney thinks that he's the guy, and would Mike Tomlin even sign a 1-year extension? Yeah. And if you did not sign him to an extension, then in essence, are you just saying he's a lame duck coach at that point? And would he then entertain the ability to be a free agent, basically after the season?
Hey, we're going on the rabbit hole there. It's interesting though. It's a conversation we've never had to have before.
Right. It is an interesting conversation. And look, I mean, is he playing for that 1 or 2 year extension in these final 4 games? And if you're not going to give him an extension, do you and they don't have the rest of the season becomes miserable. Do you think about cutting the cord at that point? So I mean, it's a great question. I don't have the answer to it. I would see if I could get him to sign a 1-year extension, but I don't think he would. Maybe he would.
Yeah, I don't know the answers to any of those questions. Some people have also speculated if he's lame duck and they don't extend him, can you hire as quality of an OC as you would like to, considering the Tomlin would kind of be in lame ducks. Too. But my thought back was, well, you're going to hire an OC before Tomlin ever gets extensions anyway. Tomlin signs his extensions in the summer or the spring. So you're going to hire your OC in January, right? So how are you going to... Yeah. He's not going to be... There's not going to be an extent... Even if you were dead set on an extension, that's not even going to happen until the OC is already hired.
Right.
So yeah. I don't know if that actually... I mean, I get it, but also I'm not really sure if that works in practical, practice. All right, Dave, we're going to wrap things up here. Really good turnout tonight. Consistently over 100 people in the chat and a lot of great super chats. So I know we did not get to everybody, and we apologize for that. Try to get through as many as we can. But we'll be back in 2 weeks from now to recap and see where things are at. So thank you guys so much for being here. Dave, as always, thank you for being here as well.
And thank you for moderating it exceptionally, as you always do. Thank you for everybody who attended tonight. And peace and love, everybody. Happy holidays.
All right, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. A lot of more content coming for you guys. Appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you soon.